All right, so a couple of you asked me, how do you balance blades after you paint them? With the monstrosity, I've got blades that I have to balance. So I'm gonna go over my process. It's what I've been doing, it kind of works. There's a better way of doing it. If you can find the old miniature aircraft coal roll balancer, that will balance it in all three axes. But this is just a static balancing, and a lot of guys go, well, I made them weigh the same. Well, that's fine if you have them static balance and they weigh the same, but you might have two blades that weigh exactly the same, but when you put them on a static balancer and one goes kunk to one side, then it's not balanced. It's not going to fly. You're going to have vibrations and all that stuff. So most of the time, the only thing I do is static balance my blades. So I'm going to go over how I do it with a big set of blades. So we'll get on it. Okay, so first you need a big leveling surface. If I can get this to go the right way, I want it to do. So I've got this table here. It's full of my son's shit. Helicopters, cars, all kinds of stuff. But when I built this, it's on rollers, but I made it as level as I could. So this surface right here, that is just trashed and dirty, is the levelest surface I have over a 6-foot span. That's what you need, well, at least that's what I need, so that when I put my blades on a balancer or something like this, you put the blades on here, and then if it's perfectly level, you can measure the ends and get them, as level as possible within half a millimeter. So that's the first part. You need a leveling surface, as level as you can get it, as flat as you can get it, where you're going to be measuring the tips of the blades. So I'll show you what my surface looks like. It's it's old, and it's been well used by my son with all of his shit that's in here. But I went through and scraped off all the glue that's dripped and the tape that's left. When you sharpen this on the sander, you just straight up and down, sand a little bit. It gives it a nice little cutting edge on there that'll take most of the big stuff off. Or what you really can do is have your son come over here and take care of it and fix all his shit. Yeah, right, that's not gonna happen. So I've got a couple different types of balancers. And they're just static balancers. And static, what I mean is you put both blades on here the way they would normally be on your helicopter, and you put them on here and it balances statically. So this is an old K&S rotor balancer. And what's nice about this one, it comes with different sizes of holders for the blades. So like these teeny tiny ones are for tail blades, which I use this for tail blades too. And then I've got main blade ones here, and I've got really big ones. And then when I really do really big ones, I made spacers that fit inside the biggest ones, and then I can put these in the blades. And this one's nice. It's got bearings down inside here. So, if you have that, see there's a little bit of play in here. You want this just in the middle so it's not dragging on the sides. You see what I'm doing? I'm taping my other ones in there so I don't lose them, because I lose them. I even went so far as to get up my 6-foot level and see where I'm at as far as level goes. And that's not bad. I mean, that's pretty damn close. But my real problem is you look at the gap. There's a big gap right there. And it comes up right there. So over time, yeah, shit has gotten weird. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is, what did I do with it? I just had them. This is the only, there, okay. So when I finally get the blades on here, what I'm gonna do is I am going to put a couple little blocks just so I can make it level at the tips, okay? This block and that block are gonna be perfectly level. And right now, it's slightly off. And I mean, that's like a paper width of a difference. But that could be a whole millimeter when you're talking about the ends out here. And I've done this because I have them marked. And even on this one, a long time ago, I said I need 3 folded sheets of paper towels underneath there to get this level. But since this has gone weird, I'm not going by that anymore. I have one sheet, but I have it folded in half, so that's 2 layers. And that looks dead nuts on center. Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought with the way more paint on this blade than this blade. I can measure straight up from here to the back of the blade, and I can get it right on there. In my yellow paint, you can see I got a fingerprint in there. It's still soft. So it's only, what, 24 hours old, and it's still soft enough that I put a fingerprint in it. So let it cure. So, but this is just for demonstrating purposes, and you can see this one is actually down. So this is a heavier blade, but it's not bad. So you can see it's not slamming down, but it is coming down. So what I'll do is, since these aren't painted on the bottoms, I can put black tape long ways, equal distance from the center of gravity of the span-wise CG. And this is to be a great example. Even if this were the heavier blade by total weight than that blade, statically balanced, that blade is heavier because the weight is moved out further than, say, this one. So you can't always go by, well, this blade is heavier than that one, so this means more weight. Not necessarily. So I'll be curious. I'm going to pull out my gram scale, and these were 285 grams a piece before I painted all this shit on there. I'll be curious to see how much more they weigh now. And here's a quick and dirty way for doing span-wise CG on a blade. And you can see how far they put a lot of weight out here. So I just get a straight edge and clamp it down. And then you just move. This is the bottom of the blade. This is where I'm going to put the tape to balance from that one. So I figure I'm going to have tape that's going to go from here to here. So big old chunk. But this is in the center. It's balanced as good as it can. And it's actually flopping back and forth to either side. So it doesn't take very much pressure to get it to go either way. There, that's as close to the balance point as you can get it. So now what I'll do is I'll just take a pencil and mark across here a freaking ruler with a clamp, and then it's set on there. And that's a really easy way of doing it. You don't need, I tried doing it with that thing and I couldn't get it balanced. I thought, okay, even if I get it balanced and I get the blade on there, there's no real good way of marking it. This tells me that this is the line from there to there, okay? So since I'm going to be putting my balancing tape on the bottom side, I went ahead and flipped both of these blades over. All right, so I got it flipped over. Now we're going to start the balancing process. And so I'll just start adding black tape and see how much it's going to take to actually get these the same distance, whatever distance it is, 10, 20 millimeters up from these little plates, and get it balanced. All right, I just cut off a random piece of how much I thought, and the good thing is now this side is heavier because it's down and it's not touching up here. So what I'll do now is I'll just start trimming off tape until this balances across the whole thing, and I get to a point where I'm starting to measure to the trailing edge of the blade. This is kind of my go-to spot to measure on these things. We'll start trimming this off and we'll see where we get. Okay, we're starting to get closer. You can actually see that there's a gap on there, but it's still not the same as that. So I, just by eyeballing it, I know I need to take off a little bit more. But you're seeing that it's starting to balance. So I gotta take a little bit more. And one of the things is you don't want to have like one of these going while you're trying to do this. Any air currents will get this thing teetering, going back and forth. Even me walking next to it will make it teeter back and forth. Okay, we're getting close. So we're at approximately 10 millimeters, maybe 11. Let's see what the other end is. All right, so on this one, we're at about 16. So we need to go 3 millimeters. That side down there needs a little bit more trimmed off, just a little bit. This is a matter of, cutting off like, that much. All right, I'm right at 13 here, and I'm right at 13 there. Almost on the dot. I did go through and I put a mark in the center of my piece of tape, and I'm cutting off equal pieces on the other side so I can keep my CG right here. So here's all the tape that I cut off. Started with the big ones, getting it close, and then I ended up with the little ones. The tape is now on, and now our stuff is statically balanced. And I'll probably have to redo it after this yellow dries a little bit more, probably in another week. I can go through this whole process again and hopefully get a little bit more off there. Who knows? But there is my 2 blades of static balancing. Now, if you have 4 blades, you do the opposite blades just like you would a 2-blade system. So 1 and 3 to themselves, and then 2 and 4 will be balanced themselves. Now, if you have a odd set of blades, like an odd number, like a 3 or a 5, that's what sucks. Then you go through, you find the heaviest blade, and you match all the other blades to the heaviest blade, which sucks, but it is what it is. And one of the last things I do is I take a hard piece of plastic, or this happens to be a vinyl squeegee, just to help kind of burnish it down, to help it really stick and stay. So, and that's something I always do with all of my stuff. It's not an exact science, but it is kind of crazy science. So with these, what you can do, you take and just give it a little cut and a wipe, and that will push out some of the air. So far, I've never had any of these big pieces of tape come off, and I've got them all over everything. So, like that one, you can see it. That's a big piece of tape. We'll see how this does once I get the monstrosity flying.